For the sixth chapter of the book, which is called Ideate. Now let us revisit the design thinking process. The first step is called Inspire. The second step is called Empathize and Define. And smack in the middle, we have the ideation stage, which is to say that you can do justice to ideation only once you've understood the problem in its totality and you've defined the problem quite narrowly at it. So the first thing which I talk about in the ideation chapter is that ideas are like Lego blocks. Okay, which means that the more, suppose I give you one Lego block, you can't do much about it. If I give you 10 Lego blocks, maybe you can create some mechanism. But if I give you 100 Lego blocks, even though each Lego block is same, but the amount of permutation combination that you can do with similar looking 100 Lego blocks is technically infinite, which means that the more number of raw material ideas you have, the more is the potentiality of you to create ideas, which means that quantity matters over quality when it comes to ideation, which is a very difficult thing to digest often for the uninitiated, because we often want 2 good ideas, 5 good ideas. But understand that there's nothing called 2 good ideas or 5 good ideas. This 2 or 5 is an outcome of 100 such ideas that would have been brewing in the background. So next time when you're asking ideas from your employees or your team members, don't ask them for 2 good ideas. That's not a good idea. What you need to do is to ask them for 10 ideas, 20 ideas, 30 ideas, and then together you sit and sift through those ideas to see what makes sense. And that is where we have this technique called hybrid brainstorming. Now, brainstorming is a concept which has been fairly used across organizations of size and length, but brainstorming hasn't proven to be effective at all. This term brainstorming was coined by Alex Osborne in 1940s, and over the last 70-80 years, a lot of research has happened in terms of understanding does brainstorming work. And the conclusive evidence that we have is that both the quantity and the quality of ideas that come via brainstorming is inferior to the same people working independently. Why? A couple of reasons. The most prominent being idea blocking, which means that I can't listen to somebody else's idea and think of my own idea simultaneously. So most likely I'll kill my idea. There is a group think, which means the entire team starts thinking like one brain. Associated with it is evaluation apprehension. I would not like to rock the boat. I would like to always go with the team's broader agenda, even if I know that this is not a very, very compelling idea. And finally, I have this free riding behavior, the social loafing behavior, where everybody is not pulling the weight equally. So to avoid those lacunae with brainstorming, we have something called hybrid brainstorming, wherein each person writes down his or her ideas initially, puts them in a central pool, and then we build on each other's ideas. Now, because my idea has already been heard and taken care of, I don't really feel compelled to push my case. And where do these ideas really come from? Historically, what has been proven comprehensively is that the most creative people are the ones who operate at the intersection of discipline, the so-called Medici effect. And that's where diversity is very critical. Not diversity not in terms of people outside or around you, diversity also in terms of your own knowledge sources. Where are you learning from? If you're learning from the same area over and over again, then most probably you're not adding anything new to yourself and to the domain. And when you are ideating, it's okay to imitate, because every creation is clever imitation. Innovation starts with imitation, but innovation doesn't end with imitation. So if tomorrow you are trying to come up with a great idea and you think that your neighboring organization or your contemporary has already developed the idea, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just try to copy it and improve on it. And which would mean that ideation can happen only when you are breaking the patterns in a systematic manner, which means that ideation requires discipline. And what beats many people's understanding is the fact that they can't imagine the word discipline and creativity in the same sentence. They somehow tend to think that discipline kills creativity. But I am of the opinion that discipline liberates creativity. The most creative people in the world are highly disciplined at it. They're disciplined about breaking the patterns. And every time they get themselves into a pattern, they break that pattern as well, which is an act of courage. So like in the previous chapter, in this chapter also I offer a few very useful tips on how do you go about generating very novel ideas. The first tip that I have is called challenging assumptions. Now each industry, each organization, each work setting has a bunch of unquestioned assumptions. And creativity starts by challenging those assumptions. For example, 10 years back, if I had to pay money to you, I need to know your account number, bank account number, I need to know your IFSC code, etc. But today I'm paying money to countless people without knowing their bank account number or IFSC code. How? Using UPI. But again, one would argue that to transfer money to somebody with UPI, I at least need to know the guy's phone number. But not necessary. I'm again transferring money to people without knowing their phone number. How? Maybe by the UPI ID. I need to know the UPI ID at least, that's an assumption. But again, I'm transferring it to people without even knowing UPI ID or phone number. How? By the QR code. So you see, every time I'm having an assumption, I break the assumption, and the act of breaking the assumption is the act of creativity. That's one very powerful technique. Then I borrow some methods from the stable of blue ocean strategy. So one of the method is look across the value chain, which is your buyer utility map, which means that instead of very narrowly focusing on one aspect of the customer journey, look at something from the inception to the grave and see where you can add value. Similarly, you can look beyond the current users in terms of the 4 tiers. You can look at your loyal customers, dissatisfied customers, refusing customers, and unexplored customers. Another very powerful technique that we discuss in this chapter is design for the extreme. So think of the most extreme situations in which your product, project, or process can be subjected to, and then try to come back from that situation and see that if that unveils, what kind of an idea can I conjure up to solve my problem, and how do I really go about implementing that in my solution. Analogous design is another very powerful method, which is drawing analogies. For example, Toyota learned the entire concept of lean manufacturing not from another manufacturing company, but actually from a supermarket based in the US called Piggly Wiggly. Similarly, Henry Ford, the father of assembly line, did not go about understanding how manufacturing is done elsewhere to think of the assembly line. Instead, he looked at the slaughterhouse, on how a cattle gets slaughtered into small pieces, and all he did is to reverse the entire process, that how small pieces make the whole big car. Another very powerful technique that comes from the stable of lateral thinking is the ideation triggers, which is also used as shorthand for that is the SCAMPER. So this is a very short chapter but very powerful chapter where we talk about different methods of ideation. And all I want to offer to you is the fact that please don't judge ideas when you're generating ideas. You need to really allow a lot of ideas to come to the fore, and only then you should put your critical hat. And that's where the traditional models are different from design thinking, because design thinking allows a lot of possibilities. It really allows a long leash to ideas before you're terminating those. And you're not terminating those ideas out of whims and fancies. You're terminating those ideas out of tryouts. And that is where the prototyping and testing, which is your chapter number 7, really comes into the bearing. So this was a very short one for all of you. I hope this was useful. Thank you so much.